Game stores are dying. Hey, my name is Andrew Ashby. I own a game store. Is my game store next? We'll find out. I'm talking with Spencer here.
Hey, Andy. Glad to be back again on the Geek Together podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to be talking about why game stores are dying. I've been in business for a year now, and I have learned a lot of the pain points. And so, yeah, we're just going to talk about it. So,
yeah, I remember I've had a handful of friends locally who have been in sort of the game store business, and I've talked a little bit with them and with you about what goes well and what doesn't. So it'd be interesting to kind of dissect that and see what kind of is wrong with the I don't know if it's the model or if it's just the
business
clientele. Yeah, whatever it is, let's talk it over.
Well, and you and I used to go to a game store in Provo, Game Den.
Yeah.
And they are now closed. And I used to go to another game store in Springville called King Richard's, and they are also closed. So
yeah,
those are two game stores in my neighborhood.
On the other hand, there are a handful of stores locally that have been around for a long time and just seem to be chugging along.
They're doing fine.
But we hear, it seems to me like it's been since the pandemic, which was bad for lots of businesses, not just game stores.
Yeah.
But especially game stores, I feel like have just kind of cycled through. Like there's been a fairly high turnover since then. I'm trying to figure out how to make this model work.
Yeah. So let's talk about why game stores are dying, and hopefully we have time to also talk about how you can not die or things that you can control.
Well, let's talk about the model of the store first.
Okay.
So if you're a game store, or if let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're interested in starting a company and sort of a hobbies, whatever, board games, card games, novelty store is kind of what you want to do.
Good.
As the person with experience, I defer to you to talk about what the process of that is.
For sure. So realize game stores are mostly retail. Most of your money is coming in through selling products. And these are products that other companies make. And this is kind of the first pain point of being a retail thing is you do not get to control the prices of your items that you buy at. Okay.
So when you're talking about reselling other people's products, you're talking about TCGs, CCGs. You're talking about like
TTRPGs,
D&D, TTRPG.
So anything, you play with, being trading cards, books for D&D, anything like that. Miniatures. You are buying it from other companies, and then you're selling that product to the customer. You're the direct to the customer. So that's where you make most of your money.
And so getting into that world requires a significant amount of capital, doesn't it? Like you can't just start a game store.
For sure. You're looking at anywhere between $50,000 to $200,000.
Wow.
To build up your inventory, your space, and we'll talk about space and atmosphere. But yeah, you need quite a bit of money to be able to get into these product lines. But the problem is you don't get to control the price that you're buying it at, and you can't really overcharge.
Sure.
So if you buy
you're
something,
competing with all the other stores in the area.
Yeah, and you're also competing against Amazon and online.
True.
So I can't buy trading cards and then sell them for twice the price because the market, you can't do that in the market.
Right. No one will buy it from you. They'll just find it from someone else.
And it unfortunately allows some of the really big names in the industry to, I don't want to say bully, but they have a monopoly on their product. Some of the biggest companies in the nerd space, since they know the reason people are coming to your game store is to play our game, or is to play our card game, or is to play our TTRPG. Since we're the main attraction for your store, we can charge you more. So,
and really, correct me if I'm wrong about this. Sometimes the price is not necessarily reflected in the consumer, where, like you said, if you charge too much, they're just not going to come and buy from you.
Correct.
And so the squeeze there that happens is on the game store, where the seller is increasing the price, but the game store can't make it
the
too
price.
much higher.
Correct.
And so it's their margins that are getting squished farther and farther
Yeah,
down.
no, the as a store owner, you are at the mercy of both the customer and the wholesaler, which there's a lot of numbers out there, but usually game stores are making, if you're lucky, 10 to 15% margins overall. And with a lot of the product lines, you're making about 30% profit. So if you buy something at $7, you're lucky to sell it for 10, and you'll get $3 out of that $10 for your profit. So yeah, that's just kind of the name of the game of retail.
And it's a struggle when you've got to pay rent on your space, you've got to pay your employees, you got to, have all these other little expenses that are coming out of that 10 to 15% paper thin margin.
Exactly. So if you have really small margins, what you're living off of is that. And so your main goal is to get people in, and that's another thing we'll talk about is traffic, that kind of stuff. So yeah, retail is not a crazy profitable thing. As much as I love these companies and these games, it's not a good only business model. You'll be scraping by if that's all you do.
And I feel like with game store owners that I've talked to before, they're sort of begrudging about the fact that people will come to them and say, "Oh, we'll just sell sodas, sell snacks, sell things like that," because those have a much higher margin.
I can get 50% off soda.
But then that makes you like sort of a snack company that plays games on the side.
Correct. Yeah. So you got to be careful. Like, sure, there's other things you can invest in, but at the same time, you're a game store.
Right.
Yeah. So, and now I have to do research on having a kitchen. Now I have to do research on all of these other product lines that weren't really my main interest as a game store owner.
In fairness, there's some cool stuff you can do with that. Like, you guys have partnered with somebody locally
who makes meat,
and that's kind of cool because I've never been to a game store that offers meat.
Yeah, and we'll have it on tap too. So,
cool.
so that's one of the solutions. Is you as a game store owner, you have to be creative. If you just purely rely on retail as your main source of income, it's going to be really tough. You're just going to be on paper thin margins. You have to expand into other things. You got to host events. You got to host. You got to host other reasons why people want to come in and pay money besides, hey, I'm just getting the next of the books or I'm getting the next of these trading cards.
It sounds like that's not your ideal strategy.
What do you mean ideal strategy?
You're saying that game store will have to put on these events and just basically kind of be at the mercy of these same games and companies still. You just kind of like try to be as creative as you can within the parameters of playing those games.
Yeah. Your main strategy should not be retail. Your main strategy should be something else, which we'll get to. So that's one of the things, retail.
Cool.
Here's another problem that's killing game stores. And this is something that I hadn't really ever thought of until I've actually seen it in person.
Okay.
The old guard, the gatekeepers, the people who come into your store and they are good customers. They spend maybe 10 to $20 a week. Okay, these are good customers as far as a business goes. These are my regulars. These are good people.
Okay.
However, they sit down and they play with other people, and they aren't socially the best. Okay,
sure. They turn other people off because they are, for whatever reason, not fun to play with.
Either they're like hyper competitive, or maybe they don't know about hygiene and they don't shower. Whatever the reason is, okay, they will get away your regulars. And I have a perfect example of this. I had a person who came to my store, and they were amazing. They came weekly, and I really enjoyed seeing them here. And they supported the store. They spent $10 to $30 a week, which again, that's gold.
Sure.
I love this person. And then another person came into the store, another customer who became a regular, and they also were a gold customer, somebody who came in and spent money. But those two people, they played games together. But my first original customer, they didn't get along with this other person. And because of that, those two cannot exist in the same space. So I lost that amazing customer, that first one, because of the second ones. They just had some drama between them, just some game drama, understandable. But like that was nothing that I had done as a company.
Sure.
It wasn't like I had driven away that customer. It was another customer had driven away. And that's really, really unique because like if I go to a restaurant, my favorite restaurant, I get a sandwich there every week. It doesn't matter what customer's there. That's not going to affect my sandwich most of the time.
Sure.
Like,
especially because in like a fast food place, for example, you're in and you're out and it's who cares who else is
yeah,
there.
so there isn't really any other place besides like maybe bars or game stores. It's only in social places where customers can turn off other customers.
So do you find that the responsibility falls on you to police the social interaction of people? Like when you're around here, are you kind of trying to keep the peace between folks?
So I think that's something that game stores should absolutely do for their best interest. Okay.
Sure.
If you realize you have somebody who doesn't shower, okay, and they come into your store and they start coming in weekly and they're coming in and playing, you should talk to them. Okay. Because at the end of the day, selfishly as a business, that person is hurting your bottom line.
Interesting.
Because they're coming in and they're turning away other customers.
Or by that same token, people who come in and cause problems or don't get along very well with people or for whatever reason, others know that person's not fun to play with.
They won't want to come in.
Is that a similar situation where
Yeah.
you might consider taking them aside and talking about?
Absolutely. So what we do in our store, we have very clear posted community guidelines. We call them tavern rules. Hey, you need to be doing this. And I have definitely pulled aside people and I've given them a warning. Hey, by the way, here in the game store, we have no politics. Okay. So you can't be talking about politics or ever. And you said this thing about this, and I just want to let you know we can't have that in the game store. It's fine. It's not that I disagree or agree. You're welcome to be here. It's just while we're in the game store, we're just here to have fun.
Yeah.
So we can't be talking if you're pro or anti this.
Well, I've noticed that also extends to inclusivity. Like you have posted rules about like we don't say things that might hurt X, Y, or Z demographic of person or all demographics of people because, like you're saying, this isn't a place where we're trying to like tribalize, like have different groups. Like I've noticed that that's a priority here.
I'm very clear. No politics, no religion. Keep all communication PG-13, because it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. I want you to come in here and have fun. And the only time that is a problem is if your fun comes at another person's expense.
Right.
So be whoever you are. Okay. Awesome. Amazing. But just do not affect other people's abilities to have fun. But you can see how that's hard because as a game store owner, that's kind of awkward to have to be able to go up and talk to people and be like, hey, we need to talk about your smell, or hey, I've been hearing things about what you've been saying. And if there's somebody who's coming in and spending money, like if this is a gold customer, somebody who's spending money, like you could potentially be turning away $20 a week, $80 a month if this person gets offended.
But it's the how many other $20, $30 a week are you turning away by not saying something?
Exactly. So you need to have a good relation with your customers. Your regulars, you need to be talking to them constantly. You need to have a temperature on your store, and you need to train your employees to be able to do the same thing, and for them to tell you. So I know the gossip of my store. I know some of the drama that goes on behind the scenes. Not because I'm really noisy, but I want to protect while you're here in the store. I want you to feel fine and feel safe.
Well, and it sounds like if you cultivate that culture, I guess, appropriately, then the other patrons of your store will also kind of help with that.
For sure. Like people will start policing.
Yeah, they'll say like, hey, around here we don't do that. We don't talk about that.
Yeah,
and it can just be sort of the culture of the store rather than you being the bad guy kind of all the time.
For sure. And for older game stores, this is going to be really hard because you can have your established, that's why I call them old guard, because you can have your established customers who are actively doing this. And so you're like, Joe's been here for years. He's been playing Magic the Gathering for years. But if you watch Joe and you realize just how competitive and how prickly they are, you could be like, well, maybe Joe's the reason why people show up for a week and then they never come back. And so that's really hard for an old game store owner who's been around for 10 years to be able to suddenly implement this new culture. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work. So that's a problem that game stores can fix. That's something you can control, but it takes work.
So the problem so far, just to recap, we've got retail is just a struggle.
Yep.
And you've got the culture of your store that you've got to kind of be on top of.
Yeah, you have to be able to control your culture. Another reason game stores fail, live or die, is marketing.
Okay,
marketing. It's been amazing what marketing has done for my store. Okay, I had this couple come in from Pennsylvania the other day, and the only reason they came in is because their kids watch my Instagram videos.
Okay,
that couple spent $100 in my store.
Came all the way from Pennsylvania.
Spent $100.
Yeah,
that was 20% of my sales for that day.
Oh wow.
Okay,
that's pretty solid.
20% of my sales was because of that couple that came in because their kids told them about it. Okay, so this is another hard thing if your store hasn't been doing it, but you need to find some way to market you. And I follow so many local game stores now because I want to see what they're doing and I want to see what I can learn and how I can adapt. There's some game stores who get it. I've seen some really funny like skits about Magic the Gathering and really good stuff. And their social marketing's doing great and it's bringing people in. And then I see other game stores who they just post about their weekly events on Facebook and that's about it. And
which is valuable information and people
great
should be doing. But
but
it's not like separating them from the other stores.
Yeah, that's good for your regulars. But what you as a game store got to do is you got to try to be bringing in people from everywhere.
Sure.
Okay. Obviously work on your culture and your regulars, support those people, but then also just try to have an outreach.
So one thing I've noticed about your store here is that the mall is pretty helpful to you, or rather they want you guys to be happy and will help with advertising.
Yeah,
right?
They put us on their billboard and stuff like that, which is really cool.
Super cool, but not all stores have access to, a big giant marquee on the freeway.
True. Yeah, not many stores have an electronic billboard, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to be your own marketing champion. Either you hire somebody to do it or you put somebody on your team who's already do it. It's just shotgun it out. Get as much marketing as you can out. Stuff will stick, but you just got to push it. And this, I say, is just as important as store operations. What happens inside your store, fundamentally important. That's your core. Marketing brings people in to your store.
Another thing that you are really good at is the social media stuff. You are making videos on TikTok, posting them on Instagram. We just started posting this podcast on YouTube, and there's other videos in the pipeline going up on YouTube and all these different places. What can you say about social media marketing and the impact that has?
Social media is amazing because I haven't had to spend a penny on social media. And you got to kind of keep your eye on the platforms and see what's new. Luckily, I got into TikTok kind of when it was kind of the growing bubble before it kind of got a lot more competitive. But yeah, social media is such a good outlet for that kind of stuff, just because it's become so targeted on social media. We make the jokes of like, oh, I was talking about this thing and now all my Facebook ads are telling me about working out, protein and that kind of stuff. That's all I see on Facebook. And I'm like, oh, I should lose 10 pounds. But it's literally algorithms, it's AI that is trying to push that stuff to the right people. And so if you have an interest in D&D, for example, my whole social media is targeted around D&D. And so if you've ever liked a D&D video on TikTok or Instagram, there's a good chance that eventually my content will get to you. And then you'll be like, wow, I like D&D. I should go check out this D&D store. And that brought us 300 people for our store opening. We had over 300 people. For a store opening, that's huge. That's amazing. It brought us over 1,000 people for the world record. It brings people in constantly. There's people, the Pennsylvania company, there's people who come in daily who are like, the reason we're in here is because we found you on social media. My husband found you. So here's the really cool thing about D&D, which is unlike a lot of other nerd communities. If you hit one person in a D&D group, say you hit the dungeon master or one of the players, they usually share it with their whole play group.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we have a group chat about magic, and we send magic memes all the time, and anything fun that happens in magic, we're talking about it. And so if you can cater your game store to those things, hey, we're doing a big Magic the Gathering event that's really unique, or hey, we're doing a really big Yu-Gi-Oh event or a big D&D event. If you can target and just hit one person in that group, it's like you just marketed to that entire group.
But it's like you're aiming for the groups, maybe even more than like the individual players.
Yeah. But it's just like grenade marketing. It's so cool to see. You hit one person in the group and they infect it. It's like zombie marketing. Really.
Yeah.
You hit one person and it's going to infect 5 more people.
Interesting.
So that's the really cool thing about game store marketing, because people are geeks. People love their stuff. People love their cultures. If you can target that culture, they will spread it themselves for you. You just need to hit one in a group and you'll get 5 more hits.
Interesting.
So that's really cool.
I like what you said too about how you don't have to really pay any money for social media marketing.
Yeah, I've never spent a penny.
You can.
Yes.
And then whatever, Instagram will promote your posts and whatever. But on the other hand, it seems to me, watching you manage all that, it seems like it's a bit of a grind. Like you kind of got to stay on top of making videos pretty consistently and staying up to date with whatever trends are going on and things like that.
I wouldn't and I haven't used money for pushing ads, pushing my videos. However, now that I have learned what videos are doing well and what videos aren't, that's probably where I might push a video or two, especially for maybe the next Dead Wars. Okay. I kind of have a few video ideas. And so what I can do is I can release 5 of those videos. I can see which one does well. And then the one that does well, that's the one I can pay $100 for to really push, because I know that video works. And that's kind of how marketing should be done. You shouldn't just make a video and then pay $1,000 to send it out.
Sure.
You should really test out. And the best way to test it is you just put it on your social media, put it all on your social media, and then whatever resonates with people. All right, that's what I'm going to push.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm going to approach paid social or paid advertising when I eventually do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's marketing as a major problem for game stores.
It's a problem and a solution. If you
Sure.
aren't doing it, you're losing. There's so
leaving
much
money
potential
on the table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much potential for your game store because people love nerd stuff. But if they don't know about you, it doesn't do you any good.
Right.
But
There's
it's a
tons of
solution.
other stores they can go to.
Yeah. But it's a solution. If you do it well, then shoot, that will help your game store so much more than anything else.
Okay.
Okay. So now we've got 3 problems. I say the 4th one is honestly store operations.
Okay.
Okay. This is, how do your staff treat your customers? How does your store look? How does your store feel? How does it smell? What do the bathrooms look like? Okay. I worked, maybe it's because I worked 9 years in fast food. Okay. But I learned why it was so important to have things cleaned, why we clean bathrooms 3 to 4 times a day. And it's silly to some, because some people don't recognize it all. There's some people who they won't look at the windows and they won't see handprints. It's just something that doesn't register with them. But there are people who do look. Those people who do care about how things feel and things look. My wife, for example, when the house is dirty and messy, she's super stressed. And when it's clean, she feels really good. And same thing with game stores. There's been game stores I've brought her in, and she's in there for 10 minutes, and she's like, can we go? Because it just doesn't feel good in here.
Yeah, I recently had a friend who took a significant other of his to a game store. He was excited because she wasn't really into nerd things, but he obviously really is. And they went in, and he was so excited about this event that they were going to, and they just kind of got hit with the BO wall a little bit.
The odor.
And he was embarrassed, and she was like, "Oh, this is where you go on the weekends to hang out with your friends or whatever."
Yeah.
And he was really upset about that. But yeah, it's like you're saying, it's a huge turnoff for people who care about that, and it's not everybody, but the ones who care a lot.
Yeah, and that's potential customers. That's people who could be in your store spending money. Yeah. So if you're like it's the wife test for me.
Sure.
Anytime we do something in the store, I bring her in and I show her, like, what do you think about this? And she's a really good temperature gauge for like a person like that. Maybe somebody who's not a big nerd, but but she knows how she feels.
Yeah. Well, and this isn't always the case, but it seems like stereotypically this is sort of the female demographic that would care more. You know what I mean? Like, there are obviously men who care about how things look and things being clean and da-da-da-da-da. But it seems like having a clean space that is, like you say, smells nice and is comfortable to be in would be more interesting to maybe the girl nerds or the potential girl nerds that would come into your store.
Well, and game stores already can have a reputation of being a boys' club.
Yeah.
And if you come in and it smells like BO, and if the seats
kind of a
are
man
sticky,
cave.
and it looks like a man cave, and the carpets are all patchy and that kind of stuff, obviously there's people who don't care, but yeah, there's people who do care, and that's just customers you're losing. At the end of the day, that's just money of people who don't want to be in your game store.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate with the space we got, and we had to spend $50,000 for a build out, and then another $30,000 for our expansion. So about $80,000 for just our store, making it look nice. And a lot of people don't have, like, if I'm just a mom and pop and I want to start up my own game store, you don't usually have $80,000 to renovate and make a spot look nice.
Yeah.
So you really have to prioritize cleanliness. You got to prioritize doing the best you can just to make it look nice and presentable. You don't have to like make it look like a tavern, but like if you can have a clean looking bathroom and clean floors and decent looking tables, you're already doing better than some game stores. Absolutely.
Sure.
So those are the main problems. I don't know. What are your thoughts on those?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I've never owned a game store myself, but like I said, I've watched friends try to start stores and things, and these are issues that I feel like come up consistently for just about everybody.
Yeah.
And solving those problems. It's not like some secret that the major game store companies hate these 3 secrets or 4 secrets for starting a game store.
Number 3 will shock
you. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it is the kind of thing that it's like bare minimum stuff that maybe people don't always think of.
Yeah.
And then after that, maybe you hit it big with whatever your gimmick is or your whatever works for you as a company. But this is kind of, I feel like, where people should start.
Absolutely. These are like cores to running a good business. So we've talked about the 4 problems. Let's talk about the solutions. Okay. So retail. I can't really fix that problem. I have to be in bed with these companies. I have to buy their products at that time. So you have to figure out what are things that I can do that I can bring money in, or I can host events that I don't have to rely on these companies as much. Okay.
Okay.
So I saw one from a game store where they did a commander night where they just took all of their penny commons and they called it
For Magic, you're talking about?
for Magic the Gathering. They had just, as a game store, you just have
Your
thousands
draft
of cards.
chaff, your bulk. Yeah.
You have so many cards. And so it was $20, and you can dig through their whole pile of commons, and you would make a commander deck just out of all of their penny cards, and then you got to keep your deck. Okay. The money that you would make off of that, like, they probably were able to make those commander decks for maybe $5 to $10 card wise. Like
Sure.
if you're looking at maybe but they probably wouldn't be able to sell those cards, or very, very slowly. So
Right.
that's just stuff they have. So they were able to make $20 for pretty much everything. And that's pure profit.
For cards that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to sell.
Yeah. And I saw another one who he makes booster packs. He makes his own booster packs out of those chaff commons, and then he sells them at the register for $1.99.
Okay.
And so you have to think outside the box with not only retail but events, and reasons for people to spend money, because since you are at the mercy of these companies, you have to figure out how to maximize that and what that looks like. Blind dice bag, okay, or these homemade booster boxes. We're hosting a masquerade, okay. That's our own event, completely We Geek Together, unique, okay. We've sold 51 tickets, which it's brought in about $1,000 for us.
Wow.
Okay, and that's not tied to any retail. Now, of course, the event itself has expenses.
Sure.
But like that's an avenue that I get to control where that money, and I get to set that price and all that stuff. I don't have to bend to another company.
So you're saying the solution to the retail problem is finding creative ways to like untether yourself from the products of those companies. Not like to not sell them necessarily.
Yeah, you still need to sell them.
Yeah, but to find ways that are more profitable for you than they are for those companies.
Exactly.
To sell stuff.
Exactly. Find out some ways, and work with your community. Maybe you do new player nights, or a thing we do is we have dungeon masters in the store. And so Wizards of the Coast doesn't see a penny for us hosting D&D games in our store. The money goes to the dungeon masters in the store. And so that's amazing. We don't have to pay for any of that. And so that's a profitable thing for us to do. And our DMs get paid, so that's even better. So yeah, you got to think outside the box. You have to be creative. Your job as a game store it is retail, but it's also figuring out how to think outside the box of that retail, how to maximize in different areas.
Sure.
So that's the first problem. The second problem, the old guard, and we talked about it. You have to have a temperature check on your store. You need to talk to your regulars. You need to talk to your customers, and your staff need to be doing that too.
And your other regulars. It's just like
Yeah.
it just has to bleed into the whole culture of the space.
Yep.
Is that this is how
Clear posted rules are amazing. If you can have a big clear posted rules, if you can talk to the people when you see it's a problem right there in the moment, and I'm not talking about like yelling and kicking them out and making a big scene. It's just letting the person know honestly, oh, hey, by the way, I don't know if you just came straight from work, but I got to tell you, man, you stink. And it is affecting, like, other people are around you and they can smell you. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to be the guy that people know as the stinky guy. So, like, if you can just shower and then come here, like, people love playing with you. I want you to keep on playing here. I want you to be happy. And people just don't like the smell. So it's nothing against you. And that's a hard conversation to have, but you got to have it.
Yeah.
You got to have it. Protect that community at all costs. Otherwise, it can devour itself. Problem number 3 was the marketing, and we just talked about that. Get somebody
kind of
on
the
it.
solution as well as the problem is just doing it.
Just do it. Just do it. It's as important as store operations. If you can have store operations and marketing, you've solved so many problems. And then, number 4 was store operations. Make sure you got a clean-looking store, well-trained staff, friendly staff, a good environment. If your staff feel that way, hopefully you don't have any gatekeepers in your staff. if you have a sour person that you have employed, like that's a huge problem. And I worked in the restaurant industry. I had to definitely talk to people who were like, you have RBF, and it's like, hey, let's put you on drive-through, or let's put you on,
somewhere in the
bags
back where we don't have to see you.
Just, hire people, do good interviews, and train your staff well, so you can have a welcoming place.
Well, cool. Well, after all this, would you say that your company is going to be the next to succumb to the failing game store pandemic?
No, we're not going to die. We're doing good for ourselves. So I love local game stores. I really do, and I've been going to them for so long, and I feel like we could be doing so much more as game stores, and so that's why I want to not only survive but thrive.
Yeah,
I want to keep on growing because I want to change the landscape for local game stores. I really want local game stores to be, because I think local game stores have taken a huge hit. Local game stores are dying. People don't really think about local game stores anymore. And I think hopefully in 5 years we can change that. I want local game stores to be like the king of social places, that when you got a weekend and you got nothing to do, you want to go to your local game store. I truly want that. I think that would be amazing for the world.
I agree. As someone who also has spent a lot of time in game stores, that would be ideal, I think, and especially in like a college town, like kind of we're living in, to have that be, the go-to for folks when they need to hang out. That'd be awesome.
People need to get out more. They need to socialize more. We're in a loneliness epidemic. We're seeing so much depression. We're seeing so much mental problems, issues. People are having hard times meeting people. A local game store, a place that you can relax, play games, meet people, socialize, have fun, is sorely needed.
Yeah,
in the
it's
world.
important for the larger community, not just the nerd space.
Yeah, it's sorely needed. So I think local game stores could be doing amazing if we can change the nature of everything.
Well, awesome. Well, let's wrap things up for this episode today. If you want to find Geek
This
Together,
podcast,
and check out some of the marketing that Andy's been working on.
Yeah, you can look at my examples.
Yeah, where are you at?
We Geek Together on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. We Geek Together. You'll find us there. You found our podcast, so you probably found our website or our YouTube page.
Speaking of, by the time this episode comes out, the podcast will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon.
Very cool.
So
I'm glad you're helping me with that.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously people are already listening to the podcast, so it's a little late for that. But for the record, that's where you can find this. Go leave a review and things like that and all the things.
Yeah, help spread the word.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, I guess we'll be back next week
Heck yeah.
with another topic.
We'll see you in the tavern.
Sounds good.